Hi, this is Miss Arlequin, and today we're going to be identifying the different elements that make up the structure of a narrative plot. So we're going to be using a plot diagram to actually record the different parts of a story. So to practice creating this plot diagram, you're going to need your copy of our first text of the year, The Chaser by John Collier. In addition, make sure that you are taking notes for each of the different elements of plot, their definitions, and what they mean. When we talk about plot, we're talking about the organized pattern or sequence of events that make up a story. And every plot is made up of a series of incidents that are related to one another. Usually there is a cause and effect relationship. One event happens, it causes the next event to happen, which then causes the following event to happen. Now when a story begins, that part of the plot is referred to as the exposition. This occurs at the beginning of a story. It's the part of the story where the characters are introduced and where we learn about the setting of the story. So we're learning where the story takes place, when it takes place, a lot about the overall environment of the story, the society, the story world. So you can figure out in the beginning of a story whether you are reading something that's taking place in modern times, if it's America, if it's another country, if it's a fantasy world, if it's the future. In the exposition, it's also the time that we figure out what the main character's goal is, and then we get introduced to the main conflict, the problem. In a story, there's almost always going to be something that the character wants, something they're trying to achieve, even if it's just that they want to live a happy life, and then there's going to be obstacles or conflict, something or some things that are standing in the way and preventing the character from getting what they want. After the exposition, we go into the rising action, and this is the part of the story that begins to develop the conflict. And so different events will occur to cause problems for the character, to make it difficult for them to achieve their goal. And this is where your interest gets built or suspense starts to occur. And so you start to wonder, will the character actually get what they're looking for? This brings us to the climax, and this is also known as the turning point of the story. It's usually where the main character comes face to face with the conflict. It could be a battle scene if we're talking about two characters against each other, a protagonist and an antagonist. And during the climax, the main character is often going to change in some way. And it's usually the part where we're going to see everything come to fruition and see the character either achieve their goal or fail. Now after the climax, you have the falling action, and that's where all the loose ends of the plot are tied up. The conflict and the climax are all taken care of during this point. Finally, we have the resolution. The resolution is the ending of the story. It's where everything gets tied up and the story comes to a reasonable ending. You can, at this point, know whether or not the character has overcome the conflict, if they've achieved their goal, and you should at this point be able to figure out what the overall theme or lesson of the story was. When you put it all together, you have 5 basic building blocks of any narrative plot: the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So now it's time to practice what you've learned. I'd like you to take a blank piece of paper. It can either be loose leaf paper or just blank computer paper, and you're going to create a flow map. Your flow map is going to take the place of a traditional plot diagram. And so we're going to have 5 boxes in our flow map. In the first box, you're going to record the exposition of the chaser. In the second box, the plot events that you think are part of the rising action. Third box will be the plot event that you think is the climax of the story. In the fourth box, the falling action, and in the final box, the resolution of the story. Please make sure you bring your flow maps to class with you tomorrow. Good luck!